This is the Stress-Free Wedding Planning Podcast with Sal and Sam, a new podcast for engaged couples concerned about wedding planning and family expectations but want a stress-free, fun, and unforgettable wedding.
Hi, I'm Sal Fusco of After Hours Events of New England. In my 40 years, I performed at over 3,500 weddings. Working consistently keeps me in tune with the wedding industry.
Hi, I'm Sam from Atmosphere Productions Disc Jockey Service. I've been DJing since the mid-70s in radio, nightclubs, and thousands of weddings, helping and interacting with hundreds of engaged couples.
Welcome to the Stress-Free Wedding Planning Podcast.
Are you ready to pop the question? Maybe you've already gone down on one knee and now need help buying that diamond ring. How much should you spend? What are the 4 C's? Where should you shop? We have the answers for you with our diamond expert, Andy Koehn.
After listening to this edition of Stress-Free Wedding Planning, you're going to know and understand the answers to those questions and be able to make an informed decision when buying that diamond wedding ring or any diamond jewelry from this point forward.
With over 80 years of combined wedding experience and insider information, this is Stress-Free Wedding Planning with your hosts, Sal and Sam. A new podcast for engaged couples who are stressed about wedding planning and family expectations, but want to have a fun wedding. Listen now for revealing wedding insider secrets, tips, and strategy or lesson that you'll be able to implement for a stress-free wedding. Information that you just can't miss and may just change your life. Take the journey with us from worry and concern to a stress-free and unforgettable wedding day. The Stress-Free Wedding Planning Podcast with Sal and Sam.
Learn more about our journey to help you with stress-free wedding planning in the trailer or pilot of this podcast. In today's edition, what you need to know about buying diamonds with Andy Koehn from Buy Like a Guy podcast. Andy is also the owner of Koehn Koehn Jewelers in West Bend, Wisconsin.
But first, if you have any questions or concerns, go now to Facebook and join us on the Stress-Free Wedding Planning community and ask away.
When you're in the market for an engagement ring or diamond jewelry, it's natural to do some research. The trouble is, there's so much information out there. A guy like, especially me, could get stuck. So the big question is, how much do you really need to know about diamonds before buying them? And does it really make a difference in your buying decision? Well, let's ask Andy Koehn from Buy Like a Guy podcast. Hi, Andy.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Not too bad. Tell us a little bit about your podcast.
Well, Buy Like a Guy started really because, I noticed just day in, day out, we field the same questions in a store like ours. Every person's individual, of course, but we all kind of gravitate towards the same sorts of questions. And I thought, well, this would be a really great opportunity to answer these questions in sort of a library form, so it's going to take a while to get to all the questions, but the big ones I'm sort of knocking out here and there. Most people are only in this market for a brief time, and some natural questions come to them. They ask them. And so I just wanted this nice library that they could refer to or refer their buddies to or people who are in this market because, I can see why it would be intimidating. And I just want to have sort of regular speak answers to their questions, not all that flowery stuff. So I just wanted to kind of hit it like as though I was sitting having a beer with somebody. How would I answer these questions?
Now, Andy, you also have a jewelry store, Koehn Koehn Jewelers.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about your experience with jewelry, since you're a man that's handling jewelry and you're also doing a podcast about jewelry.
Yeah, I think, and this also comes through on the podcast all the time, and it's also my number one advice to people who are buying jewelry. I really have a huge soft spot for independent jewelers around the country. I believe there was a time where you could go to a tailor and get a great suit or go to a place and get shoes that were fitted for you and to get some really intense personal attention. And that's how myself and others like me look at our businesses. We really do believe in what we're doing, and we believe it's a service that's necessary. And we also, we are emotionally invested in someone's success, and that makes independence so great in my mind.
Anyone who's looking to pop that question in the coming months, they probably have already asked themselves, how much is an engagement ring or what does the average engagement ring cost? What do you say to them?
typically don't start with the average, though I did do an episode on it because, again, it's such an interesting question because, we ask that question, like, so what's your budget, to help us help you? And a lot of guys go, I don't even know what they cost. I can't even give you a number. I'm so blind to all of this, right? The average, I think a solid answer to that is around $6,000 for an engagement ring, right?
Well, rings are so different, right? So how can you, it's hard to give an average thing.
It is. I use it only as a starting point, right? And I think it should only be a starting point. It doesn't need to be the finish line there, because for some people that's like, oh my God, that's ridiculous. For other people, it's like, oh, I was thinking way more than that, right? So that's where it really starts to lead into an individual choice as it should be. People are looking at rings online, whether they're wedding bands or engagement rings, and they all are just like, there's so many. There's like 10 billion. Right. And there's all these different price points. Yeah. That's not helpful whatsoever. So using the 6,000 as a starting point is okay. I just kind of set some sense of expectation. But, we had a guy in the other day. There's no way that he could afford that much. Does that mean we're like, sorry, see ya? No, because we're very aware of what that ring means in his life. Right. And so whether it's 500 or 1,000 or 1,500 or 20,000, whatever it is, that should not take a backseat to how much that person wants to spend within reason. Quality still matters. If spend $1,000, it's got to be the best made $1,000 ring ever.
Oh, exactly. I remember that old thing back in the day where they say you had to spend 3 months of your salary for a ring, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
That would scare a guy away real quick.
It's funny because I actually do have that in that same episode. I have met people who love that, right? They're not common. They're like, yeah, for me, that makes total sense, right? So again, that's the minority of people. I see that thing too, and I'm like, oh my God, it's a little aggressive, isn't it?
So we're going to discuss the factors that affect the engagement ring cost, and you'll hear about the 4 C's right after this.
You're listening to the Stress-Free Wedding Planning Podcast.
Wedding Tip Wednesday is brought to you by Emerge Cosmetics. Are you ready to emerge? A new line of luxurious lipsticks and lip glosses created with the intention of empowerment and coming into who you truly are. Strong, beautiful, and confident. Use coupon code EBI10 at shopemergecosmetics.com for an instant 10% discount. That's coupon code EBI10 for 10% discount at shopemergecosmetics.com. Emerge as the true you.
On today's Wedding Tip Wednesday, wedding rule number 1. You cannot please everyone, so don't stress out over trying to do so. Please yourself. Wedding rule number 2. Refer back to wedding rule number 1.
What I always tell every couple, this day is about you, not anyone else. It's the two of you. So make yourself happy. Your professionals will help make other people happy, but worry about yourself first.
Yeah, if you've listened to this podcast for more than a couple of weeks, that's something we always say. Don't stress over anything. Please yourself. It's your special day. That's today's Wedding Tip Wednesday.
Wedding Tip Wednesday is available on the Stress-Free Wedding Planning Facebook group page every Wednesday. Join the group for free.
Do you want access to a stress-free wedding planning process? Then go to our website, allthews.atmosphere-productions.com, and get my free report. 8 questions you must ask a wedding professional before booking them. Get it today. That's allthews.atmosphere-productions.com. Look for the free report and learn to shop like a pro from a pro, and go from concern and worry to stress-free wedding planning.
Jewelry is one of those things you don't think about or really even care about until you venture into the uncharted waters of the jewelry world, especially for guys. It gets confusing pretty fast, and it doesn't help that you're going to spend a lot of money on something you're basically going to give away. It's nerve-wracking, and I get it. My name is Andy Koehn, and I'm the 3rd-generation owner of Koehn Koehn Jewelers and the creator and host of the Buy Like a Guy podcast. I've helped literally thousands of guys not only get through the buying process, but actually help them understand where the value of diamonds and fine jewelry come from, what quality looks like, and why something like jewelry matters in the first place. These are quick hit episodes that come out every Thursday, and it's a library of diamond and fine jewelry information that you can choose from based on what you want to know. There's no fluffy jewelry talk. I get right in there and tell it like it is. Ultimately, Buy Like a Guy is a podcast with the tools you need to buy an engagement ring, wedding rings, or other important jewelry with confidence. So go to buylikeaguy.com to listen and follow now.
Don't know what to do for your first dance? Is your future spouse having trouble picking a song to dance with their parent? Worry no more. I have the answer. Go to afterhoursevents.com/contact guest. That is CONTACTGUEST. And you'll be able to listen to hours of music to help you select the right songs for your upcoming wedding. Again, go to afterhoursevents.com/contact guest.
Welcome back to the Stress-Free Wedding Planning Podcast with Sal and Sam.
Welcome back to our discussion about what you need to know about buying diamonds and diamond jewelry. I'm Sam from Atmosphere Productions Disc Jockey Service, weddings with expert knowledge and the difference in quality.
Hi, I'm Sal from After Hours Events of New England, the leader in making your wedding stress-free.
We're talking with Andy Koehn from Buy Like a Guy podcast. Andy is also the owner of Koehn Koehn Jewelers in West Bend, Wisconsin. Andy, give us your social media, please.
The easiest way to find me is to go to buylikeaguy.com, and everything's there. Like you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and everything is right there on that website.
Beautiful. Love that. Question is then, what are the 4 C's?
So the 4 C's are something that was developed from the diamond industry to be able to talk about the quality of a diamond based on how any individual diamond grades on the 4 characteristics. And the 4 characteristics are the cut, the color, the clarity, and the carat weight.
So why don't you explain those to us?
All right. So for the record, the first one being the cut. The cut is really the most important factor in a diamond's beauty. So it's the one that makes one diamond look better than another one. And I'm literally doing a whole little series on cut alone because it's so important. It not only determines how pretty the diamond is, it's also over half the price that you pay comes from the cut factor. So, but the main thing is when you look at one diamond and it totally blows you away versus another one that's a little sleepy, it's because the first one is cut better. And it's the human element as well. The next is color. And when we're talking about in color, we're really talking about lack of color. So the more colorless a diamond is, the rarer it is, the more you'll pay for it. The next is the clarity, and that's the thing that we use a microscope for. So when you look at a diamond, most diamonds bought and sold in fine jewelry, they have some things in them that people typically call flaws. In the industry, we call them inclusions. And it really is just a natural part of most diamonds. And normally you really can't see it without the aid of a microscope. So I tend to not put a lot of weight into that, which is ironic because that moves me right into carat weight, which is really how big the diamond is. But we're really talking about you set the diamond on a scale and it weighs a certain amount. And they tend to fall into ranges of visual size based on what they weigh. So you take those 4 characteristics of any single diamond, and that is going to determine the final price and also, the look to some extent, to most extents when you talk about cut.
I'm a layman. I'm looking at this stuff, the 4 C's. That's great. But isn't it all about what the beauty is to that person at the time? Maybe it doesn't have to be the greatest cut because this is beautiful to me, in my eyes, at least in my fiance's eyes.
100% right. It's really just a matter of trying to understand because the prices seem so random, don't they? It has to do with the relative rarity of it. So yeah, I'm a cut guy. I'm always talking about the diamond. Me personally would rather have a smaller diamond of better cut, right? But I'm not everybody. I really just appreciate the workmanship that goes into a really well cut diamond. And so that resonates with me, but I'm not everybody, right? Some people might like a little larger size and maybe, yeah, sure. I see that it doesn't sparkle quite the same as this one, but I like that little bigger size for that same money. Fantastic, right? It really is. It's such a great personal decision. I think people should really invest that sort of thought into that purchase. And I think our role as jewelers, the role of Buy Like a Guy is really just to give you enough information so that you can feel like you're making the right decision for yourself, not just told what to do, but you go, oh yeah, okay, well that makes sense to me. This doesn't. So this is what I'd like. And I think that's the goal of my store and this podcast.
So, Andy, how do you save money on your purchase of an engagement ring? I know obviously you got to set a budget, but what are some of the other things that you can look at?
That is a really hard question to answer. I think, and the reason I say that's difficult is because, the value aspect is always so important in my mind. And by value, I mean, what are you getting for what you're paying? So oftentimes, especially in our business, perception that everything's created equal, right? And so if I'm paying more at this place, it just means that they have a higher markup than this other place. So that's really not the case, honestly. I think the way to save money in this, and again, how do you quantify this? I'm not really sure, but I can tell you it's why when you go to a store like ours and other independent jewelry stores, it can save you money, but we can also give you the most value for your money based on the expertise that we're giving. We'll talk out loud with you to be able to decide. So let's go back to our $6,000 average spend. Well, who's to say that the right ring for you isn't $5,500? So right there, you've saved $500 by using us. It's our job and our role, and we're pros, right? We take this very seriously. We know stuff you'll never know. And so I think that's probably my number one tip there is saving money, which is important to all of us. It just doesn't translate when we're comparing, like, where's the best price on milk this week? It's different than that. You probably will save money by sort of forming a nice relationship with the people behind the counter to really come in and go, this is what I'm looking for. And do you think that makes sense? So
Andy, in your opinion, where's the best place to go buy an engagement ring?
We hear a lot about the online shopping experience. Again, to your question, like, I saved so much money. Well, people don't even know if they really did. It just feels like it, right? My advice to people is always to look in your own backyard first. You start with the place. I think the place is almost more important than what you're buying, because it's the people there. Does the vibe fit you? Because it is a lot of money, and this is like a big moment in people's lives. And so I always say, like, you know what? Jump on Google, do a search, find the places. Skip the ones that are heavily advertising their way up the chain. Look for these places that have great reviews. Check out their website. If that stuff seems right, then you check out the place. And if you vibe with the place, that's where I would recommend somebody go. I think it's really important, not just in the initial purchase, but down the road. It's nice to have a jeweler.
Right. In my personal opinion, when it comes to jewelry, my thought is, one, you stay away from the mall. Okay. And you find the mom and pops.
Yes.
Well, why I say the mall is, a lot of that is canned responses. You always wonder if the knowledge is even really there, or they're just kind of BSing you. And I just think when you're in a mom and pop, they're a little more honest. They have more invested in you. They want to direct you. It means something to them too, is what I'm trying to say. They want to guide you down the right path.
Yeah. Yeah, so, record that and send that to me, because I'll throw that out there too. I love that.
So one more time, Andy, tell us how to get to you on social media.
Best way to find me is to go to buylikeaguy.com. I have all my podcasts there, as well as all the links to Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. I do a little bit of Twitter too.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us, Andy.
Yeah, you guys, thank you. You guys are great.
So, Andy, we'll have you back for another topic, right?
Yes, absolutely. Would love to.
You're listening to the Stress-Free Wedding Planning Podcast.
So there you have it. You just learned about buying diamonds and diamond jewelry. We explained the 4 C's and when and where to buy your diamond wedding ring and any diamond jewelry. So now you have the insider knowledge to make an informed choice on your next diamond purchase.
Now, as you spend the next week planning your wedding, if you want me, Sam, or our community of stress-free engaged couples and wedding experts to answer any wedding-related questions, join us over in the Stress-Free Wedding Planning Facebook group.
Once you're in, go ahead and share your concerns and worries, and we'll let you know if you're on the right track or if there's something you need to to work on. The link to join us is in the show notes of this edition, or go to Facebook and search for the Stress-Free Wedding Planning Community.
Remember, a new edition of the Stress-Free Wedding Planning Podcast is released every Wednesday. Subscribe and get it first. We'll catch you then. Ciao.
Thank you for listening to this edition. If you've enjoyed what you've just listened to, leave a review and share it with a friend or someone who would benefit from this information. So until next time, it's TTFN. Ta-ta for now.
The Stress-Free Wedding Planning Podcast is produced and copyrighted by Atmosphere Productions in association with After Hours Events of New England.